Hello, teachers, and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind podcast. You can call me Jackie, and today I have with me Marie Lee, who is known as a successful group piano teacher and who decided to help empower other teachers to bring group lessons to their own studios. Welcome, Marie. I'm so happy to have you.
It's great to be here. It's finally here. We've been scheduling this for a while. So
I know, like all the way back, I think, when Group Illuminated ended last year.
Yeah, it's been a while too. So it's just fun to see it finally happen. Thanks for having me.
Well, and it's timely too, because I think we're all kind of starting to think about summer conferences. Before we get into that, I would love to know a little bit more about you and your studio and all that fun stuff.
I'm in Las Vegas. I'm actually from Utah, but I ended up in Las Vegas where there's just a huge need for music teachers in general. So come on out. I'll get you set up with some students. I have a large group piano school. I teach out of our Steinway dealers store, so they have a classroom for me there too. But we have right around 100 students, Monday through Thursday classes. It's the most fun I have all week.
Oh, I didn't realize you were in a Steinway dealer. That's fun.
It is, I know. And the nice thing is they set up my classroom with Roland, and so I've got 8 really nice Rolands and nice classroom. Of course, I would love it bigger, but I've got 8 students per class, so I've got room for 8 students on 8 pianos.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before we get into Group Illuminated itself, I would love to know what inspired you to create a conference specifically for group piano teachers, or when this all started.
That is a funny story because it's not even my idea. So my my friend Mindy Rollinson, you probably know her as the group teacher. She does a lot with Dorla Aparicio. And Mindy came to me one day and she's like, Marie, you know, there's not a conference. There's not really training for group teachers. There's a little bit here and there, but not like a conference or anything really dedicated for group piano teaching. And it's like, you're right. She's like, we need to do something about that. So I reached out to a few well-known group teachers and said, what do you think about this? And they're like, we're on board. Let's get it going. And so we started out kind of small, but it's been the type of thing that people have just really embraced because their group teaching is now becoming more accepted, and we need the training for it, just like we've had for private teaching for all these years too. So that's how it started 3-4 years ago. So we're in our 4th year. This will be our 4th year of conferencing, so with the group teachers.
Nice. I love it. Well, and it's exciting too. A little bit about my history. I did young classes. We're talking like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, beginners, all same level. But last year I transitioned all of my elementary age to multi-level, and it was terrifying. Like, what am I doing? So the Group Illuminated was wonderful. Let's talk about group lessons though, and maybe why they have just almost exploded in our industry, because, you know, pre-pandemic, I didn't know any group piano teachers. I mean, I think you've been doing it for a long time, but I mean, why do you think they've become so beneficial for students and teachers today?
You know, that is a great question. I've been doing this over 20 years. And I want to tell people it's when it wasn't cool and when I had to defend myself, like literally I had to have my words in my head of this is why group is a good thing for your kid. And remember, your kids learn in band, so why can't we learn a piano kind of thing? I just felt like it was always on the defenses because people were like, oh no, that's not the way we learn how to play piano. We do that in a private. And it's like, well, it's one way, and it just really depends on what your goal is for your child. I really feel like if you want your child to enjoy the piano and stick with it long term, that whole camaraderie, being in with a class, that community that's created just because they're making friends, it keeps kids playing longer. When you're one-on-one, you know what, we teachers were fun, but we're not their peers. There's only so much we can do before they quit, and they quit a lot. We know that. Like middle school, they're out of here too. But I think we're finding that group teaching is a way of not that private lessons aren't fun, but group lessons are fun. I mean, they're just fun because you've got kids all learning together and laughing and playing music, and what a better recipe, right, for fun is just making music with your friends too. So I think that's a big part of it. Other parts might be maybe parents are thinking that one-on-one lessons are a little more serious, or these are the kids that are going to like major in music, and that's not our goal. I know some people call group piano lessons recreational music making, which that's a great term. It is fun, but I mean, we're still expecting our kids to go home and practice too. So maybe it takes a little bit of the pressure off of of one-on-one students, like parents feeling like they need to go compete or major in music, that type of thing. So I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I just think there's just a really great energy in a group when we're learning. We just come away happy and the kids are motivated. And when the kids are like, what, 45 minutes? We're done already? I love that because it's like nobody's watching the clock. It's been a fun time and they're excited to come back the next week.
There's not a lot of yawning in the group classes, I've noticed. Actually, you know what is interesting is I started doing buddy classes for a long time.
Oh, good idea.
And yeah, that was amazing because these kids would become such good friends. And I mainly did it with the students that I felt like I was losing or they weren't practicing or they weren't motivated. And I see a complete change in their attitude towards music and piano and practicing and all that. So there really is a huge element of they need to be having fun. So I love that. Okay, so for teachers that might be new to this idea, what are some practical ways that you recommend of incorporating group lessons into an existing private studio?
You know what? That's what I did 25 years ago. Because like you, and you said pre-COVID, 25 years ago, nobody was doing
None.
group. And it's like, I don't know if I like this. I don't have anybody to go watch. And so I started by doing performance classes, like one performance class a month. And I think a lot of teachers do that already, where it wasn't necessarily like group teaching, but you were getting the kids together. So the kids would come to their weekly private lesson. And then the last lesson of the month, they were grouped. I can't remember if I did it kind of by level. I might not have messed with it. It might have been just, a group of kids that come, and we did some theory games and they performed for each other. And I just wanted to see how the kids liked being with each other. I wanted to see if I enjoyed it or not. And I did specifically put like some theory games and that type of thing that was some teaching. So I would know, is this something that I can even teach a group? Do I know how to do this? And so I started out that way. And then it was like, I want to do this. This is fun. And then so that's when I converted all to group. But you mentioned doing buddy lessons, which is a great. So tell me a little bit about that. That's two kids come and learn at the same time.
Yeah. So one year I just had such a long waiting list, but most of them were beginners. And I thought, I keep teaching the same thing over and over and over again, lesson after lesson. And all these students are pretty much in the same place. So I just merged the two together. Yeah. And I mainly did that because at the time my studio had my upright piano and then it had one digital.
Okay.
And so that worked out really well. But you know what the funny thing is we never even split off into their own areas.
Really?
We always ended up just learning together.
Cool.
Yeah. So I just added a little bit of time, but yeah, we would do the lesson. We would play a game. They would have fun. They were motivated together. So if I had to be honest, I think buddy lessons are my number one preference. I love them. They are.
That's good for people to know. Yeah.
I just felt like I could give them a little bit more time. They get to connect with one another a little bit more.
Yeah, buddy lessons, that's a great option. And you don't necessarily, like you say, you don't necessarily need a second piano. I mean, that is one of the, I don't want to say a downfall, but group classes cost money. You got to buy all those pianos too. But buddy lessons, you could easily start even with two kids on one piano. I haven't personally done them, but I can see that would still be the benefits of group learning because, it's just a major expense to buy all those pianos. But a teacher, if they wanted to test that one out, still get the friendships going, but still in one piano during one lesson slot. You don't have to mess up with your schedule either as well. I know teachers that do 20 lessons. I don't know if you've heard about these.
Yeah.
And I don't do those either, but I know enough people that do. But it's kind of like your buddy lesson, but I think you've got 3 children, one room during one, so it would be an hour. Each gets 20 minutes. 20 minutes private lesson with the teacher, 20-minute like a lab time. So they'd be, hooked up maybe with Piano Maestro, Piano Marvel, or whatever you want to do for your lab time. And then 20 minutes, however you work this, where the 3 students are all together doing some theory games where they're playing. So they're still getting that. Yeah. So that's nice because you give the little individual attention during the private lesson, but then they get the group time with theory. And that I know teachers that do that for siblings as well.
That would be a good way to kind of introduce the multi-level area because that was kind of terrifying for me. It was a nice way to dip my toes because they were learning the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real scary leap, at least for me, was jumping into that multi-level at the same time because you want to give them attention. So I can see how the 2020 would work because you still feel like you're giving some personal attention to the students.
I don't teach multi-level. I have nothing against it. I think if you do want to teach multi-level, you really need a curriculum that is written for multi-level teaching. So I have enough students that I can do same level and schedule them, and so that's not an issue at all. I'm going to just pop this one up because this comes up so many times with teachers. Group teachers are like, I'm not giving them the one-on-one attention that they need. And I'm just here to tell you, they may not want it. And I'm just, really, I really don't, just because that's how we learned doesn't mean that's what they want. And I'm not saying it's not important. There are students that will thrive with that one-on-one attention. There are other students that it will terrify them to be with you one-on-one. They come to the group because they feel safe in the group, and one-on-one with a teacher is frightening and it's a little overwhelming. So don't think that you're doing them a disservice if you aren't having some one-on-one time with them. They will learn the piano. They will learn it well. They might learn it even better in a group because they're more relaxed too. So that one-on-one thing is how we learned, but it doesn't mean that that's what today's kids want or need.
Right. It's a completely different setting for them than for us. For sure. I'm curious what a group lesson with Marie looks like. You have 8 students at a time. Walk us through. I want to know.
It's 45 minutes, and it's fast. It goes so fast too. And that's one thing. If I had to tell people that they're dipping their toes, and you know this, Jaclyn, is lesson planning takes so much more time than private lessons. You just have to know you'll make more money because you're teaching more kids, but you're spending more time before the class. It's not just, the 45 minutes, the hour that you're teaching the class. I easily spend 20, 30 minutes per class planning before that class too. But yeah, like you said before, I'm teaching the same stuff over and over again. So I'm saving my lesson plans as Google Docs so I can go back and just cut and paste when I did teach this beginning stuff or this song. So it's easy to reuse lesson plans. So save your lesson plans somehow there too. But typical 45-minute schedule. Right now, we are getting ready for Federation Solo Festival. So it looks a little bit different. But I would call our school kind of like a performance-based school, if that's a word. I don't even know if that is even a word. But we're working toward performances. So we do the National Federation of Music Clubs. We do their ensemble festival, that's in the fall, and then solo festival, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So a lot of times we're working toward a performance, a holiday performance at the mall, our piano parties in the spring. Those are a little more casual, but our 2 Federation festivals are probably the biggest ones. So we're usually working on a piece that we're getting ready for a performance, whether it's a solo or an ensemble. I don't really like to get locked into a routine, but I'm finding that the kids like to come in and we do like a rhythm activity. So we really like bucket drumming or boom whackers, but a lot of rhythm activities with my little preschoolers, some steady beat games with rhythm instruments like that. So just to get all the wiggles out, and as people are coming in maybe a little bit late, I do look forward to that one. Sight reading, I try and spend 5 minutes less or whatever I can do, and a little bit of sight reading just because I feel like that's the key to playing, anything down the road. I'm trying to teach myself out of a job. So I'm telling the kids, if you could read these notes, you don't need me anymore. So a little bit of sight reading, a little bit of scale work. That might depend on, what pieces they're learning. Like some of my older kids are, in sonatinas, which have tons of scales. And so we really need to be fluent with those scales. So we might just scale work over and over again, which is not particularly fun, I have to say. But Piano Maestro has some scale exercises in there you can get on and do. And if you want to just have some fun with scales, sometimes we'll do like some improvisation using a backing track with a scale and just improvise on a scale, which if we have time for, I think that's a fun thing to do too. So I'd like to throw in a little bit of improvisation once in a while so they're comfortable and not nervous when they're asked to do something creative like that too. So a little bit of improvisation, but I got to tell you right now, I don't get to all of this in the 45 minutes. So if anybody's listening and going, how does she fit this in? I don't. And like right now, we're just work on these performance pieces too. But yeah, in my dreams, here's what we would do. I do love the Piano Maestro app, by the way. I've had that one for years, and I project that up on a big screen TV and we play that together. We use that for sight reading a lot too. So that one is a favorite. I love rote pieces. I love to introduce those because there are kids that will struggle with the note reading, but that ear training just gives them an instant success. And for the kids that do really great with note reading that need to work on ear training, that is helpful for them too. So some rote learning, lead sheets. That's kind of how I bring in, the popular music that the kids are wanting to play, but might be a little bit too difficult, like Hedwig's theme. You all know how hard that one is too. Or the little, the 6-year-olds that want to play Popular from Wicked. And it's like, oh, how are we going to do this? So anyway, musicnotes.com. There's probably a couple of these, and Sheet Music Direct. They call them beginner notes versions. I call them lead sheets. So basically all the notes are written in for the right hand melody, and then there's chord symbols. So I'm going to call it a lead sheet because that's what I've always called it. But then that way the kids can learn how to play something that's popular right then, are able to have that experience of playing something that all their friends want to listen to. And no, it's not note reading because the notes are written in, but I can teach the chording. So that gives me a chance to teach chord theory. And I can do that with little ones, like even just playing a single note. That's your single note chord on your left hand, learning how to harmonize. And then there's just a lot of places where you can go with a lead sheet too. So I do a lot of that.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you do everything, because I'm like, okay, wow. You do rote. You have
not every week. I'm telling you, this is
not
just
every
not
week.
Happen every week.
Right. I get. I guess what I'm trying to say is they're still getting a very, very well-rounded education, because now you're mentioning sonatinas, and that is blowing my mind a little bit. Are you talking about ensembles? I get that, learning ensembles in a group. Learning solos in a group, are they all learning the same piece together, or are they learning different pieces?
That is a good question. We learn a lot of the same solos. So like if I was playing out of our method book, which I use a lot of Piano Pronto, like the Prelude book is something I use too, Piano Safari. So those would all be solos that we're all doing together, and we're all learning the same solo. Bonus points if there's a teacher duet that I can play along with them, because those make those solos so much more fun. And then, but for right now, like you said, the sonatinas, if I were to introduce that, that's usually for our Federation Solo Festival. And what I'll try and do is try and narrow it down to like 2 or 3 and have them choose between this group. And then this is harder because these are intermediate students. So they have to be self-motivated to go home and learn some of this on their own at home. And I've been using the Piano Marvel app, which has lots of classical music on that. I will also create tutorials for them to learn that. I'll teach a little bit in class, but you know in a 45-minute class, I can't teach 3 sonatinas. But there's been a lot of times where we're all learning the same sonatina because they all like it, or it's just one of those pieces that everybody needs to learn anyway. So this is something group teachers ask all the time too, is like, we're not always teaching ensembles. In fact, I'm teaching probably more solos in a group format than I'm teaching ensembles. So ensembles is what we would do maybe for performances, but say just like our holiday performance where we just played down at the mall, those were all solos. The kids learned holiday solos because I wanted them to have pieces that they could play for their families. And then I just filled in with, the teacher duet to make it sound a little fuller is all. But we're doing some work in a group class. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to paint Marie's picture in my head here. Okay. So the younger students, the beginner, you're all learning about the same thing, but it sounds like they have enough pieces up their sleeve to where they can kind of pick and choose what their solo might be. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. So if they were to go to a performance and I would narrow it, and I try and give them enough variety that I'm not the one making the decision, because ultimately it's them that they need to get this song memorized, and they need to spend some good time on it, and it can be their piece. But yeah, and the Federation, they actually give you a list. They have a booklet where you have to choose from too. So I try, at least with the younger kids, Jaclyn, I try and give them 2 choices. And as they get a little bit older, I'll give a couple more. But you get too many and it just gets a little bit out of hand in a group class. Then you have to do more listening to their audio recordings, which I use Practice Space. However you do that, that's more individual work during the week. So that's just really for festivals. That's for getting ready for that too, which would require a little bit more of that. Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you had a lot of elements outside of the lesson. Like you mentioned Practice Space. I use boom cards a lot. That's kind of how I fit my theory in for my students. So there's different ways. And it sounds like the students understand that they have work to do outside of lessons. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Do. Yeah, they do. And technology has really helped that. Like that was one of the best moves that I made, though. I will tell you that. Whatever platform it is, going online and having everything in one spot has just totally simplified things, because as technology rolls out, we can make videos for our students to teach stuff. We have backing tracks, we have photos. We were doing some art pieces. Here's a picture of this. Anyway, I can share all of that in one little folder on Practice Space, and parents aren't digging through their emails or their phone, their text messages, trying to find, what's the recording Miss Marie sent. Everything's all in one folder. I just feel like that is probably totally changed how I teach, because parents just know you go to Practice Space, here's the assignment, and it's like a little folder where we've put, the video and the audio recording and the lesson notes, and everything is all in one place to keep everybody organized. So yeah, the students and parents know they need to get on their Practice Space assignment, and here's the notes, and here's how you practice. And I do love it when composers do have even just an audio recording or performance recording on YouTube. It enhances that experience and helps them learn it a little better at home.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, and you had last year in the Group Illuminated. So in that conference, my favorite part, if I'm just going to tell you my favorite part, was that all of the presenters had recordings of them doing actual lessons.
Oh, teaching.
And and yours was teaching a rote piece. Am I right?
I think it didn't go really great or something. I can't remember.
Well, that's what makes it even better, because you actually get to see other teachers who you're like, oh man, I could never do that. And then you can see like, hey, it doesn't go perfect all the time.
It never does.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think I decided to leave that in and go, you know what? It didn't. But then they got it, and then I think we had to do a couple more reviews, and then they finally clicked too. So yeah,
it was great. I watched the whole thing because I do a lot of rote and that kind of thing, and that's always been my thing. Is I'm like, I found myself in my group classes skipping the rote because it just seemed too complicated to me to teach. Mm-hmm. And then when I watched your video, I was like, oh. And another great thing about that too is there were so many different recordings from different teachers, and everybody has a different style. Right. So it was really fun to watch.
And it's funny that you mentioned watching the videos of each of the other teachers, because when we would do surveys, that was the number one thing people I want to see more people in action, because it was like, I can do this if I can see somebody else do it. And then also what you mentioned is make sure everybody understands there is no one right way to teach a group class. This is not the Marie Lee way. You need to do it your way, but you find your way by watching what other people do and go, I like what she does here, and I like what this person does here, and here's me. But nobody needs to teach the group class the same way. It needs to fit your teaching style, your personality, and the goals of your students, and kind of your vision for your studio as well. What you want to be. Like, say, I believe in performances. This is what I want my students doing. But you might not think, hey, you know what? That's not really important to me. Here's what, I want to make it easy for families. And so I'm going to do multi-level, and we're going to make this just really easy for families to schedule too. So let me just put that out there, is that's probably the number one thing people come back after Group Illuminated. Like, we love watching the videos, and we love seeing that there is not one right way to do this. It's your way. So find out what your way is too. So
yeah, it's great. And be open to being okay with having to switch things around.
Yeah. If something doesn't work, right. Yeah.
I feel like it took me a good 12 weeks. Maybe not that long, maybe more 6 weeks before I actually felt secure in my group teaching footing. It's okay if it didn't work, try something different. If that works, great. And it might only work for a period of time, but
And it might only work with one class too. And you might be like, this
Yeah.
class. So I know somebody asked me on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, well, so what method or what are you doing with your classes? It's like, it really depends on the class. And I don't want to say it's like all over the place, different for every classes. Like I said, the things that I mentioned before are really, those are my set parts, set things that I do in classes. But there are classes that need more rhythm work. And so we're going to do more rhythm works. You know, some kids that can't even keep a steady beat. It's like, we got to spend some more time on that. But this great. If it was 12 weeks for you to get your feet like I feel secure. It took me probably 2 or 3, 4 years before I was like, yeah.
I have a lot more resources than you did. So we will say that.
I think you're braver. You're braver than I am.
So, okay, let's talk about, because you had to market this to parents, and
Yeah.
I've heard other teachers who are trying to transition, and they've asked me too, you know, like, well, parents, I'm getting a lot of pushback, which I got pushback too. Now, I will say, for me, it was transitioning my current students to groups that has been harder than anything.
Mm-hmm.
All my new students is no problem. It was like the mindset of my current studio. But I'm curious what you would recommend for marketing those group lessons to parents and students.
What you just said is perfect. It's actually Mayrin Cole. She's not teaching anymore, but she was the group teaching guru. I want to say it was like 1970, 1980. I can't remember, but it was her program that I used, that I started with, because that was really all that was out there. And she would say exactly what you said, is just start your new beginners in groups and keep your current students where they're at. And as they move on, then create more groups. She said that would be the easiest. Now, I couldn't do that 25 years ago because I had a wait list. And that was one of the reasons why I actually did move to group, is because my wait list was so huge and I knew I was never going to get to these kids. And a piano mom said, hey, you should look into group teaching. My sister's doing this in Idaho. And I looked at it and went, oh, this is the answer. This is what I've got to do too. So I had to convert everybody over. And I don't want to scare anybody, but I lost 40% of my students because the mindset 20 years ago was not group. We don't do group. We just do private lessons. Now it's like the mindset is wide open, and I don't feel like you have to do as much convincing, but you do have parents that still like are used to that one-on-one. This is how we learn piano, and you've got to just have the reasons why this is important. This is what I believe in. And then be okay for them to be like, you know what, I understand. I say this all the time. My classes are probably a great fit for, 90% of the students out there. But you might be the 10% that this is not a good fit for. And that's okay. Here's what I believe in and how this will benefit your child and how it'll benefit you in the long run. Bottom line, you've got to buy into it too. Now, if I can get them into a class, even one class, pretty much have them sold. They pretty much always sign up too. So I know there's different talk about this. I do not charge for my first class. I offer a free trial, and I know there's other people that don't, and that's fine. I don't think that's even part of it. But I feel like for one class, if I can get them in the door, I can deal with that, because then I'll have them for years.
You're paying for your marketing. That's just
my
how
marketing.
you pay
My marketing is
yeah.
a free class. There you go.
Yep.
I'll take that.
There you go.
Jaclyn. Yeah, that works too. Yeah, so I can get them in, and I have the parents come in, and we do Mayrin Cole. I can share this with you, but there is a it's like called a 5-week blast off with piano course, and I do the first lesson, and all it is rhythms, and they're tapping on a C key, learning all the rhythms that they'll see down the road. And then I'm playing these cool teacher duets, and the parents are in there with their phones going, this is amazing. My kid's playing piano. It's like they're tapping on a C key, but okay, whatever. Anyway,
sure.
But if you can show these parents, well, your child will be playing piano at the first lesson. They're going to be having fun, and they're going to walk out of here wanting more. That's really all parents want to see. They just want to see their kiddo having fun and connecting in that class and connected with music too. So my big thing is if I can get them in the door for one free trial, I usually have them hooked. And then I would also just recommend, because I had to get in this mindset, but take photos. Have your phone out, and you need to be taking photos and videos. And if you can't do it, bring somebody else in. And it doesn't need to be, we're not talking stage stuff, just kids laughing as they're playing a theory game, or these kids earned, they earned this award, or photos, but anything that showcases what other students are doing with smiles on their faces, and parents can see, this is a happy place. I can see my child taking lessons here. because I can see other children having fun too. So, and you should have a website, even a one-page website. You should have a website with photos of happy children. There you go.
Yes. Yes. So real quick, as we wrap up, this has been so much fun. I think that we could talk group piano all day.
Let's do.
So, I know, it's so much fun. So teachers who are maybe thinking about it, I personally can't recommend the Group Illuminated conference enough for the summer. You can do it in your own time. It's all online, right? And there's tons of presenters. And I think there's a website that you can go to for information. I know it's not open for registration
we're
yet.
Actually, we're on Lilavis's site. So lilavis.com. It just says Group Illuminated at the top where you can get on the mailing list. And I have to tell you, even if you don't want to do a conference, we have a great newsletter that goes out once a week with just tips and tricks. And that's a good way to kind of see what's going on. We have an awesome Facebook page, which you're on there too, where people are just sharing ideas too. It's like, just get on there and get the vibe of the community, because it really is a community. People are sharing. They're not afraid to share. They're happy to give, and maybe that's all you need right now is just to see what other people are doing, and then going, okay, you know what, I think I could go this way or this way. Our conference this year is actually changing, so rather than showing up in June and having all the sessions like we had for 2 months, we're actually putting them into packages. So group packages. So there might be a package about like marketing, like what we just talked about. There might be a package about curriculum or off-bench games, theory games, but we'll put them into packages, which are a little smaller, a little more affordable, less time, less money. And that way you can decide, here's, what do I need to power up my group teaching? If I am a group teacher, what do I need? I want to focus here. And then you can focus on that certain area. For your group teaching. For teachers that haven't jumped into group, of course, we've got packages of how do you get started, how do you market, what do you teach, that type of thing too. We'll have a beginner's package as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be there.
I need you presenting, Jackie. So just know you're on our list too.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm so thankful because I really, really genuinely believe, even though I had a lot of other help, which I did, that gave me so much confidence. And I got familiar with who the presenters were. So when I do have questions, I don't even have to go necessarily to them. I can go to maybe even their webpage or their resources. It's just a very, very good thing if you're looking to groups. So Marie, if anybody wants to connect with you or if they have questions, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I think really the very best place to go is on our Facebook page, because we're on there so often. It is a Group Illuminated Facebook page. That would probably be the best place to connect, just because it's not just, Marie Lee's group, but you've got all these other group teachers that if you want to ask a question about, I've got a child that, their hands are too small for this, or they're not getting the steady beat. What do you do? And then here you get like 8 teachers that jump in and say, boom, 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 here's what I would try there too. So I would jump on our Facebook page, would probably be my number one, but I'm always happy to answer questions through my personal email as well too. I'll share those links with you so you can add those to the show notes.
Marie, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.